let's figure out where update graphics, um, well, not where update graphics is being called from, but where the actual graphic updating code is, because we already have some graphic drawing code. We just need to call it again. So the first thought is the canvas. Hold on. The first thought is the canvas adapter. Yeah, I don't know why. Moving around, I just had to readjust my windows because they were leaking off into my other monitors and that was annoying me. Okay, anyways, we already have code that draws the viewports, right? We did that in yesterday we did that. So we just need to reuse that code right here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go Control Alt Shift and what was it? I think it's F2. Control Alt Shift F2. Yeah, remove all my breakpoints. Control Alt Shift F2. I think that's a custom command of mine. I don't think that's out of the box Notepad++. We're gonna put a breakpoint on update graphics. And we're going to take a look around in our code. I believe it's in the canvas adapter. Did I call it canvas adapter? Canvas adapter something or other. Canvas adapter class. Okay, we gotta get to pixels, put pixels. So that's definitely warm. But we might not want to be. Do we want to go all the way here, or is there something else using it? I would say this is the native. This is the code that's kind of supposed to isolate. This is the barrier between platform-specific code and then our more generic code, because it's an adapter class. So I don't think we want to. There's probably something using this adapter class to set the pixels. So let's look at putpix, right? Because we're scanning through the entire canvas, and we're putting down the pixels. And I remember that we put down black pixels depending on if we were out of bounds at the viewport or not. Okay, so this is our code, right? Because this is the RGB black for when we're outside of the viewport, outside destination viewport. And then here was our viewport drawing code. And we should be able to see the rectangle VP1 somewhere in here. Okay, no, we have rec source and rec dest. In this case, the source rectangle, this would be, this right here would be rec VP1. So this source here is rec VP1. And then the destination to where you're going to see it is the rec VP0. And I'm just putting that as a comment, so when I double click rec VP1 in code, I can see where all the connections are, and I'm not going to accidentally miss this chunk of code because it has a different variable name. So this is just a quick hack so that I can still kind of see the connections everywhere quickly when I'm looking over the code. Okay, so we know that it's the rectangle source, and we're just doing mapping. So let's look at where it says do mapping, see where that's being called from. I believe it's only in one place, right? Yeah, it's right here. So we could just cut and paste this code into the. I mean, that would be the easiest way. We could just, so that's everything we need. The canvas adapter, the tile map, all these guys. This one. Yeah, that's everything we need. I'm thinking here, because we called it from here, and obviously it didn't need to be this code. We want to call all this code from. Want to call all of it from the viewport snapper. So we could just cut and paste it into that update function, or we could try to reuse it. And right here, we don't need this code to be inside the viewport snapper to do what we initially did right here. So I am thinking that this logic here is going to be part of our first global function, so that we can kind of like reuse it in two different places. So let's take a quick look at this and see, is there anything weird going on? RecMac to viewport updates. So this note, we can get rid of this note here because this was for the previous stuff. We could also make like or we could do this buff view to right. We could make that note and then to do what has changed. Right, just a little note for myself to, before I am done with this like tutorial, if you want to call this a tutorial, I don't know what to call it. I call it me ranting and maybe somebody watching. So yeah, let's just put this in some type of global function somewhere. But first, let's make sure we didn't break anything. Okay, so everything's still working. Just a little sanity check before we start moving stuff around. And what do we want to call this? It's really all we're doing is we're taking VP1 and we're sampling from VP1 and putting the results into VP0, right? So we're taking the off-screen viewport and mapping it into the on-screen viewport. Well, we don't have to get too fancy here. We could just call it do mapping, and it's source and then destination. So VP1 to VP0, right? So the idea is we're going to go from VP1 to VP0. So the source to the destination. And since VP1 and VP... Do you want to flip that? Do mapping VP1 to VP0. I don't know. But you get the idea, right? So that's kind of what we're going to call it. And... But we're just not going to call... We're going to... Since this is going to be a function that we're going to put into that global functions container, we're going to namespace this function out with whatever our library name is. And we didn't really come up with a library name. What should our namespace for this library be? I don't know. We could call it something very large Stack Overflow post. Or tile map SO for tile map Stack Overflow. Or Stack Overflow tile map, so SOTM. Sure, why not? We'll call it that. So we're going to call it SOTM for Stack Overflow tile map. Right? Usually I like 4-letter abbreviations for a namespace for a project. And I do want to make a little note for what that means, because I'm not going to remember that. So in the future, if I'm like, what is this cryptic abbreviation? I would like to have a record of what that cryptic abbreviation is. So we're going to take SOTM like that. SOTM and SOTM stack. Well, actually, you know, let's keep on doing it like we have with the same kind of pattern. So U plus checkhex. We type it correctly, and then if we do all lowercase, it's gonna correct us. Oh, and I just wrote that incorrectly. SOTM, right? Like trademark. So since I did make that typo, what I will do is I'll put this here and say, did you mean SOTM, Stack Overflow tile map, right? And if we type it all lowercase, then, wow, I just being a dyslexic fool over here. So Stack Overflow tile map. Not that way. So if we spell it correctly, it'll give us a little check mark. If we spell it all lowercase, it'll do that. And then also, like, we can do this. Stack Overflow tile map. Stack Overflow tile map. And SO tile map. SO tile map. SO tile map. SO map. SO map. You know, just a few little synonyms. And then one more thing is SOTM means and SOTM means. And then we'll have like the description. SOTM, Stack Overflow tile map. And it's a project namespace. Alright? Okay, so now that we have that project namespace, we're going to take this function here, and actually we're going to write it inline right now. We're going to move it we're going to move it after we write it, but we just want to put it here so that we can just do this. And after we do that, we can take this here and rather than underscore it, we're going to do global functions, and then the function call there, right, like that. And we will move this to, eventually we'll just move it to another file or something. I guess we should, let's not think too hard about where we're going to put it. Let's just, okay. I mean, not thinking too hard about putting it somewhere doesn't lead to too bad of a decision, because now this function is very close to its call site, right? Now I might want to do something like this where I highlight, oh crap, you can't see that. Well done. Okay, so all I did was, you see this right here, I ripped out all that code and I put that logic right here, I put it inside this function, and what I was just about to do was take this and then in a comment just put it up here like this. And that way, I know that this is going to be inside of the global functions object. Now, it's not really necessary to create this global functions object and put pointers to functions in it like this. I'm mainly doing it for kind of consistency, right? Because I got this pattern here of, you know, global data, global functions, global objects. So I'm just doing this to keep some consistency, but you really don't have to. You could just call this everywhere because of how JavaScript function hoists things. Okay, so now that we have this, we still haven't wired it up to our global functions, so let's go find our global functions container, which should be completely empty. Yep, completely empty. Global functions go here. Maybe I'll keep that comment there for now. And do I want to do something like that? I don't know. Hold on. Do mapping. The idea is, do I want to? That looks ugly. That looks very ugly. the idea is, you know, having it lined up so that I can see what's equal to what. But boy, is that ugly. I'm gonna veto that. Still not quite happy with that, but you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna do this. So this is so really quick. I can double click this, and see these two highlight, and then I can compare. I can look down here and just make sure that these are the same function name, because we have a there's just a lot of characters here. So like at first glance, it could be very easy to write this incorrectly, and I get that. Yeah, I mean the compiler or the translator is going to catch this if I make a mistake, but I want to keep to the rule of having code where I can understand what it does by looking at it and not have to rely on compiling it. Okay, so we got this function call, or not this function, but we have this library of function pointers, and we've made an entry. And let's see where it's called. Okay, so do mapping. So Control F. Okay, so if everything has been refactored correctly, we should not see any changes when we refresh. Okay, still looks good. We got our clicks. Keyboard still sees what's going on. Arrow keys will invoke our viewport code. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now all we got to do is take this function call from our global function pointers. We just got to put that into the update graphics call, and then I think as long as we didn't screw anything up, we'll be done. Just got to put it in here. I'm hoping we're done. Okay, let's take a look. I'm nervous. I have an irrational fear that the computer is going to blow up when I press one of the arrow keys. Alright, so... Ooh, hey, oh, there's something. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, back to the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, actually, I should probably say what I'm doing. I am pressing the up. I'm going to go up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I go down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I remember what my pattern was. My pattern was like this gradient. So why is there all that white, though? So it seems like it's probably... Okay, so... Okay, if we're on a line right here, if I go left, and then up, I should end up back on a line, right? Because this is like a 45-degree line. So let's go right, up. Right, up. That white doesn't quite look right. So it looks kind of like we're doing the right thing, but then sometimes it doesn't. Okay, I know what's happening here. We are going out of bounds. We don't have any logic that's saying, hey, if we go out of bounds, don't do that. We need some type of clamping logic. So if we look at update coordinates, so now the question is, where do we add that clamping, right? Because we could add clamping code to every one of these function calls. I don't want to do that. That's a lot of code to maintain, and I'm lazy. And also, it would just make more sense to have the clamping code here, update coordinates, VP1, right? So snap moves, these snap move functions Okay, so timer just went off. I'm going to stop recording and start recording again.